They're planning to replace you. Not tomorrow. Today. While you're watching this video, they're in a meeting deciding your future without you. Stop. I know that hit you like ice water in your chest. I know your mind just raced to that conference room, that family gathering, that circle where your name gets mentioned, but your voice stays silent. I know because your soul just recognized something. It's been trying to tell you for months. You're not paranoid. You're not imagining it. You're not being oversensitive. You're being spiritually awakened to a reality your heart has been whispering about, while your mind tried to rationalize it away. That feeling you get when conversations stop the moment you walk into the room. That sense that decisions about your life are being made in spaces you're not invited to. That growing awareness that you're being slowly, carefully, quietly moved to the margins of your own story. They think you don't notice. They believe you're too trusting, too naive, too focused on being kind to see what's happening. But your spirit sees everything. Your soul hears every whispered word, every strategic pause, every conversation that happens in the spaces between what they actually say to your face. And right now, as you listen to these words, something inside you is saying, finally, someone who knows what I've been feeling. Because this isn't just about workplace politics or family dynamics or social circles. This is about something deeper, something sacred being stolen from you. Not just your position or your place at the table, your identity, your purpose, the very essence of who you were created to be. For too long, you've been living as an echo when you were created to be a voice. You've been existing as a shadow when you were designed to be light itself. You've been surviving as a backup plan when you are an unrepeatable original in God's design. That restlessness you've carried, that ache in your chest. When you wake up some mornings, that homesickness for a place you've never been. That's not depression. That's not age. That's not circumstance. That's your authentic self buried under decades of other people's expectations, finally strong enough to start clawing its way back to the surface. Listen to me carefully, chosen one, because what I'm about to tell you will change everything you thought you knew about yourself. While they've been planning to replace you in their small rooms, with their small minds, heaven has been preparing to restore you to a place they don't even know exists. Your soul knows this voice, not because you've heard these words before, but because this voice remembers what your spirit forgot when the world convinced you to make yourself smaller, quieter, more convenient for others to manage. This isn't another spiritual message trying to fix what's wrong with you. This is your own soul's original voice, finally loud enough to hear over the noise of people who never bothered to ask who you actually were before they started telling you who you should become. The reason you feel different when you hear these words, the reason your breathing just changed, the reason you suddenly feel like you might cry, and you don't know why, that's recognition. That's the sound of your authentic self saying, finally, someone who remembers who I really am. You see, while they've been plotting to remove you from spaces that were never big enough to contain your calling anyway, your Creator has been designing spaces that require exactly who you are. Right now, at this exact age, with these exact experiences, these exact scars, this exact wisdom they've been treating like it's expired. You are not too old. You are not too much. You are not a rough draft of someone else's masterpiece. You are the masterpiece they were too small to see. But here's what should both break your heart and ignite your courage. Most people die without ever realizing that the very thing others tried to replace was the most irreplaceable part of God's plan. They spend lifetimes apologizing for taking up space, while heaven prepared space that only they could fill. But not you, not today, not anymore, because something impossible is happening right now as you listen to these words. The distance between the meeting where they're discussing your replacement and the throne room where God is declaring your restoration is collapsing. The veil between their small plans and heaven's eternal purpose is growing thin. Your chest is opening like a vault you forgot contained treasure. Your heart is beating in a rhythm that sounds like coming home to yourself. Your spirit is stirring like soil in spring, ready to let something beautiful and buried finally break through the surface. If you feel that sacred tremor running through your bones, if you sense something ancient awakening in your chest, if you suddenly understand why their plans to sideline you feel so wrong, you are not imagining it. You are not being dramatic. You are not losing your mind. You are finding it. This is your soul's original operating system, being restored after years of running on their limiting programming. This is your authentic frequency finally finding its matching tuning fork, while their noise fades to static. This is the moment when you stop asking permission to be who God created you to be. And here's the truth that will either free you or terrify you. Once you remember who you really are, you'll realize their meeting was never about replacing you. It was about revealing them. Their inability to see your worth doesn't diminish it. It disqualifies them from having authority over your destiny. The life they're planning for you, the smaller one, the quieter one, the one where you take up less space and require less attention, that life is about to become impossible to live. Because what's awakening inside you is too valuable to hide, too powerful to diminish, too essential to God's plan to let anyone else vote on. So if you can feel something ancient stirring, if you sense the walls of their small thinking beginning to crack around the magnitude of who you really are, if you're suddenly aware that their replacement plans are actually God's restoration signals, then it's time to remember who you were before they taught you who to be. Speak your soul's real name out loud, the one only you and heaven know, the one you've been afraid to say because saying it would mean you'd have to start living like it's true. And then, if your heart is pounding with recognition, if your spirit is trembling with the truth of these words, if you feel that meeting dissolving under the weight of divine purpose, write this in the comments. I remember who I was before the world taught me who to be. Let that be your declaration of independence from every small room, every whispered plan, every replacement scheme that tried to write you out of your own story. Because what happens next will separate those who let others define their future from those who remember heaven already has. What comes after this recognition will require you to walk away from tables that were never big enough for your calling and toward thrones that were built specifically for your reign. The question isn't whether they're replacing you. The question is whether you're brave enough to step into the position God never allowed them to touch. Your real life has been waiting for you to remember it exists. Are you ready to walk out of their meeting and into your destiny? Now that you've remembered who you really are, it's time to face what tried to make you forget. I know you feel it, that sacred tremor running through your chest as recognition dawns. But with that awakening comes something else, doesn't it? A deep ache like touching a wound you thought had healed, but realizing it's still tender underneath all those layers of pretending you were fine. This is where most spiritual content leaves you hanging, stirred up, but not healed, awakened, but not transformed. They tell you to let it go without teaching you how. They promise healing without walking you through the surgery your soul actually needs. But you and we're going deeper today into the sacred archaeology of your pain. Stop for a moment. Place your hand on your heart. Feel that steady rhythm beneath your palm. Each beat is a testimony: I survived, I survived, I survived. But survival isn't the same as healing, is it? Your heart has been keeping time through betrayals that cut to the bone, through seasons when the people who were supposed to protect you became the ones who wounded you deepest, through moments when you discovered that the very places meant to be sanctuary, your family, your church, your marriage, became the battlefields where your soul learned to bleed in silence. I want you to speak directly to that wound now, not around it, not over it, into it. What word rises when you touch the deepest cut? Don't think, just feel. Let it come. Is it abandoned, rejected, betrayed, forgotten, used? Whatever word just whispered itself in your spirit, that's your wound's real name. And here's what no one ever told you. That wound has been your teacher, your trainer, your unwitting mentor in the art of becoming unbreakable. The breakdown you thought nearly destroyed you. It was actually your breakdown of illusions about who you could trust with your heart. The betrayal that shattered your faith in people. It was forcing you to find faith in the only one who never lies, never leaves, never uses your vulnerabilities against you. Your pain has a PhD in making you stronger, but you've been treating it like an enemy instead of recognizing it as the surgeon that carved out space in your soul for wisdom no untested heart could contain. Let me tell you about Maria, 62 years old, married for 38 years to a man who slowly, systematically convinced her she was crazy. Every time she felt something was wrong, he'd gaslight her into believing her intuition was paranoia. Every time she tried to speak her truth, he'd twist her words until she questioned her own sanity. For decades, she lived in this emotional prison, wondering why God allowed her to suffer such slow psychological torture. Why didn't he deliver her? Why didn't he change her husband's heart? Why did every prayer seem to bounce off heaven's ceiling? Then came the night she found the evidence she'd been afraid to look for. 38 years of marriage, 12 different affairs, financial accounts she never knew existed. A double life so elaborate it would have impressed a CIA operative. She told me the moment she saw that evidence, she didn't feel devastated. She felt validated. Every instinct her husband had trained her to distrust had been absolutely right. Every spiritual alarm that went off in her chest when he lied to her face, accurate. Every time her soul screamed, something is wrong here, correct. The breakdown that followed wasn't Maria falling apart. It was Maria finally giving herself permission to trust the voice of God, speaking through her own discernment. The pain she thought was punishment was actually God's early warning system, trying to prepare her for the day she'd have courage to see what was really happening. Today, Maria runs a ministry for women escaping emotional abuse. She calls her story, "The Day I Started Trusting Myself Again." But here's what breaks my heart, and should ignite yours for 38 years. She thought her pain meant God wasn't listening, when actually her pain was God shouting through every cell in her body, "This isn't right. You deserve better. Trust what I'm showing you." Your breakdown isn't breaking you down. It's breaking you open. Open to truth you couldn't see when you were trying to hold broken things together. Open to strength you didn't know was growing in the dark soil of suffering. open to the voice of God speaking through the very pain you thought proved He wasn't there. Write this down. I thank my breakdown for breaking me open to breakthrough. Don't just think it, write it. Let your hand move the pen. Let your eyes see the words. Let your soul feel the shift from victim to victor, from casualty to survivor, from broken to breaking through. Now we go deeper, into the place where wounds live, not just in your memory, but in your very DNA. Into the sacred surgery that heals not just your pain, but the pain your bloodline has been carrying for generations. Close your eyes. I want you to see yourself standing in a place that feels completely safe. Maybe it's by water, maybe in sunlight, maybe in a garden. This is your healing sanctuary, a place where truth can be spoken without fear, where wounds can be touched without shame. Now, I want you to invite someone into this space. Not someone who hurt you, someone who came before you. A parent, grandparent, great-grandparent. Someone in your bloodline who carried wounds. They couldn't heal pain. They couldn't name trauma. They couldn't transform. See them standing there with you. Look into their eyes. See the pain they carried, the dreams they buried, the voices they silenced to survive in a world that wasn't ready for their truth. And now speak these words aloud. I forgive you for the wounds you couldn't heal. I forgive you for passing down what you couldn't transform. I see your pain. I honor your survival. And I break the cycle here. Feel what happens in your chest when you say those words. That's not just emotional release, that's generational DNA shifting. That's bloodline patterns being rewritten in real time. That's the moment you become the ancestor your great-grandchildren will thank instead of the generation that passes down unhealed pain. Now speak to your own wounds with the same grace. I forgive you for teaching me the hard way. I forgive you for making me strong through suffering instead of strong through ease. I see your purpose now. You weren't destroying me, you were developing me. Can you feel it? That cellular shift. That's your body releasing trauma it's been holding for generations. That's your nervous system finally getting the message that the danger is over, the lesson is learned, the strength is built. You are no longer the victim of your bloodline's unhealed patterns. You are the healing your ancestors couldn't access, delivered to this generation through your willingness to feel what they couldn't feel and forgive what they couldn't forgive. Something profound has shifted in you through this ceremony. Your wounds are no longer sources of shame, they're sacred credentials. Your scars are no longer evidence of damage, they're proof of divine protection through storms that should have destroyed you, but instead developed you. Place both hands on your heart now. Feel that strong, steady rhythm. That's not just survival, that's victory. Not just endurance, that's evidence. Evidence that you carry something unbreakable, something that can walk through fire and come out refined, not destroyed. You are no longer someone who has been wounded. You are someone who has been trained in the art of survival, educated in the University of Necessary Pain, graduated with honors from the School of Sacred Suffering, and now you're qualified to help others heal the same wounds that almost killed you but ultimately strengthened you. Your pain has given you a PhD in compassion. Your trauma has trained you to recognize the walking wounded before they even know they're bleeding. Your scars have become your credentials to speak life into those who think death is their only option. This is your commissioning ceremony. I commission myself as a healer for those carrying the wounds I've learned to transform. I accept my calling as a wounded healer qualified not by perfection but by the sacred alchemy of turning pain into purpose. If your chest is expanding as you breathe these words, if your hands are warm against your heart, if you suddenly feel brave enough to love yourself the way you've always loved others, you are becoming someone your past self would be proud of. The wound you've been most ashamed of. It holds the key to your greatest calling. The pain you thought disqualified you. It's actually your greatest qualification. You are not broken. You are breaking through. And what you're breaking through to will require every lesson your pain has taught you, every strength your suffering has built, every piece of wisdom your wounds have whispered. Are you brave enough to touch the wound that made you who you are and call it blessed? Are you ready to stop hiding your scars and start wearing them as sacred medals of honor? Because what comes next will require a wounded healer, not a perfect performer. What's waiting for you on the other side of this healing can only be accessed by someone who has walked through the fire and lived to light the way for others. Your deepest wound is about to become your greatest weapon, but first you have to be willing to pick it up. But you can't pick up that weapon while you're sitting down. You feel it, don't you? That electric current running through your chest right now. That's not just emotional response, that's purpose voltage surging through spiritual wiring that's been dormant for decades. Your soul is coming online. Not just healing, not just awakening, but activating into something the world desperately needs, but doesn't know how to ask for. See, while other voices tell you to find your purpose, I'm here to tell you something that will change everything. You don't find your purpose. Your purpose finds you. And it's been stalking you through every betrayal, every loss, every moment when you thought you were broken beyond repair. It was using your pain as a classroom, your trauma as a training ground, your wounds as the very qualifications you'd need for the assignment that's about to download into your spirit. Right now, in this exact moment, someone somewhere is praying a prayer only you can answer. They don't know your name, you don't know their face, but heaven does. And heaven has been preparing you both for an encounter that will change everything, not just for them, but for you. Because here's what they never told you about purpose. It's not what you do for God. It's what God does through you for someone who can't survive another day without the exact wisdom your suffering carved into your soul. Stop. If a name or face just flashed through your mind, that's not coincidence. That's divine intelligence downloading coordinates into your spiritual GPS. That person isn't just someone you know, they're someone you're assigned to. And your next conversation with them won't be casual, it'll be prophetic. They need to hear something that only someone who has walked through your specific fire can say with the authority that makes demons flee and hope rise from dead places. You see, while you've been thinking your trials disqualified you, heaven has been issuing your credentials. Every tear you cried in secret became holy oil for anointing. Every night you didn't think you'd survive became training for helping others see dawn. Every moment you wanted to quit but didn't became the exact testimony someone needs to hear to keep fighting their own battle. I want to tell you about Margaret, 73 years old, buried 2 husbands, lost her only son in Afghanistan, spent 5 years caring for her mother with Alzheimer's until she died in Margaret's arms, calling her by the wrong name. By all accounts, Margaret had paid her dues to suffering. She deserved to sit quietly in her rocking chair, tending her garden, fading peacefully into the sunset of a life that had demanded too much from one heart. But God had other plans. It started with a conversation at the grocery store. A young mother, clearly overwhelmed, trying to manage 3 children under 5, while her baby screamed and her toddler melted down in the cereal aisle. Other shoppers walked by with judgmental looks. Some whispered about kids these days and parents who can't control their children. Margaret walked straight to that mother, took her hands, and said words that changed everything. "Honey, I raised 5 children, buried 1. Let me tell you what I learned. The kids who break your heart in public are the ones fighting battles you can't see. Your baby isn't misbehaving, he's overwhelmed. Your toddler isn't being defiant, she's scared, and you aren't failing. You're doing the hardest job in the world with the biggest heart I've seen in years." That young mother broke down sobbing right there between the Cheerios and cornflakes. Because Margaret didn't just offer sympathy, she offered authority. The authority of someone who had survived what this mother feared she couldn't. The credibility of scars earned in the trenches of real life. That conversation lasted 10 minutes, but it started something that's still growing 3 years later. That young mother started a support group for overwhelmed parents. Margaret became their spiritual grandmother. Today, over 200 families have found hope, help, and healing because a 73-year-old woman realized her pain wasn't her prison, it was her platform. Margaret told me, "I thought God was done with me. Turns out he was just getting me ready for my real assignment. Everything I survived was training for the one conversation that changed everything. Your training is complete. Your qualifications are in order. Your assignment is activating right now as these words settle into your spirit like seed finding soil. You feel it, don't you? That sacred restlessness, that holy dissatisfaction with sitting on the sidelines while people suffer from wounds you know how to heal. That's not midlife crisis, that's midlife calling. Close your eyes for a moment. Feel your heartbeat. Each beat is saying the same thing: ready, ready, ready. Your pulse isn't just keeping time, it's keeping rhythm with heaven's urgency for someone who needs what you carry, someone who won't make it without the exact words your pain taught you to speak. Now open your eyes and look around. Not at your circumstances, but through them. See the people in your world, really see them. That neighbor who always seems fine but waters her flowers at strange hours because she can't sleep. That coworker who makes jokes but never quite meets your eyes. That family member who's been quieter lately, smiling smaller. They're not just people in your life. They're assignments wrapped in human form, waiting for someone with your exact story to speak life into their exact situation. Here's what's about to happen, and I need you to understand, this isn't metaphor, it's prophecy downloading in real time. Within the next 7 days, you're going to have a conversation that doesn't feel accidental. Someone is going to share something with you that makes your chest tighten because you've been exactly where they are. In that moment, you'll have a choice: offer sympathy or offer authority. Give them pity or give them power. When that moment comes, and you'll know it when it happens, because your spirit will stand up inside you like a soldier hearing the call to battle. You won't just listen, you'll speak. Not from your head, but from your scars. Not with advice, but with authority. You'll say words that surprise you because they'll come from a place deeper than your mind, older than your fear, stronger than your insecurity. And when you speak those words, something will shift in the spiritual atmosphere around both of you. They'll hear more than conversation, they'll hear confirmation. You'll feel more than helpfulness. You'll feel purpose coming alive like electricity through wiring that's finally connected to its power source. This is your commissioning ceremony. Not someday, not when you feel ready, not when you figure it all out. Right now, today, this moment, You are being officially activated as an answer to someone's desperate prayer. Your wounds aren't your weakness anymore, they're your weapons. Your story isn't your shame anymore, it's your sword. Your scars aren't your sentence anymore, they're your sacred credentials. Place your hand on your heart. Feel that strong, steady rhythm. Now speak these words out loud. I am the answer someone is praying for. I carry the fire they need to survive their darkness. I accept my assignment as a torchbearer in a world full of people who have forgotten how to light their own way. Did you feel that surge of something bigger than yourself moving through your chest? That's not just emotion, that's activation. That's the moment your spiritual DNA came online. That's your leadership genetics awakening after decades of dormancy. You are no longer someone who needs rescue. You are someone who carries rescue for others. You are no longer waiting for your breakthrough. You are someone else's breakthrough walking around in human form. You are no longer hoping for a miracle. You are the miracle someone has been praying would walk into their life. But here's the part that will either terrify you or ignite you. Once you accept this assignment, you can never go back to being just a survivor. You become a lifeline. Once you pick up this torch, you become responsible for lighting others. Once you step into this authority, ordinary conversations become potential transformation zones. Your coffee shop becomes a mission field. Your workplace becomes a healing center. Your neighborhood becomes your ministry territory, not because you're preaching at people, but because you're carrying something they can sense, even when they can't name it. The presence of someone who has walked through fire and lived to light the way for others. The name that came to your mind earlier, the face that flashed in your spirit, that's your first assignment. They don't need your perfection. They need your perspective. They don't need your theological training. They need your tested faith. They don't need your advice. They need your authority, the kind that only comes from surviving what almost killed you and finding God faithful in the flames. This isn't just activation. This is acceleration. You're not just stepping into purpose, you're launching into movement. Because when wounded healers start walking in their authority, they don't just change individual lives. They start epidemics of hope. They ignite chain reactions of breakthrough. They become the first domino that tips over thousands of others. Are you ready to stop being the audience and start being the torch? Are you ready to stop consuming content and start creating conversation that matters? Are you ready to discover that your greatest qualification isn't your education or your experience? It's your survival story and your willingness to let it be used to light fires in impossible places. Because someone is waiting for you to remember that you're not just chosen, you're commissioned. You're not just called, you're activated. You're not just blessed, you're a blessing looking for a place to land. And someone just recognized you. Do you feel it? That sudden warmth spreading through your chest as you realize you're not alone in this. That electric recognition that somewhere someone else is listening to these exact words and feeling the exact same stirring in their spirit. That's not coincidence, that's convergence. That's the moment individual healing becomes healing contagion. See, while other voices tell you to heal in isolation, I'm here to tell you something that will change everything. Your healing was never meant to be a solo journey. It was designed to be the first spark that ignites a sacred fire in others. Every wound you've transformed, every breakthrough you've experienced, every moment you chose hope over despair, it's been creating antibodies of hope that are meant to spread like a beautiful virus through everyone you touch. You've been carrying something more precious than you realized. not just your own healing, but the template for someone else's transformation, the map out of the exact darkness they're lost in, the proof that what they're facing isn't a death sentence, it's a graduation exam. And right now, as I speak these words, that someone is closer than you think. Maybe they're sitting in a cubicle 3 offices down from yours, going through the motions, while their spirit screams for something real. Maybe they're your neighbor who waters her garden at strange hours because trauma keeps her awake. Maybe they're that family member who's been quieter lately, whose smile has gotten smaller. They carry the same wound you've learned to heal. They fight the same fear you've learned to face. They need the same hope you've learned to hold. But here's what breaks my heart and should ignite yours. They think they're the only one. They believe their pain is too unique, too complicated, too shameful for anyone to understand. They've convinced themselves that people like them don't get breakthrough, don't find healing, don't deserve better. And while they're drowning in isolation, you're sitting there with exactly the life preserver. They need your story, your wisdom, your proof that impossible things become inevitable when you refuse to surrender. Let me tell you about what happened in a small town in Ohio that changed everything I thought I knew about healing. Sarah, 64 years old, had spent 30 years recovering from a marriage that nearly destroyed her soul. She'd done the therapy, read the books, found her peace. She thought her healing journey was over, something private she'd keep to herself until she died. Then one Tuesday at the grocery store, she overheard a conversation that stopped her cold. 2 women in the checkout line ahead of her, one crying softly while the other listened. The crying woman was saying words Sarah had spoken to herself 1,000 times 30 years ago. I don't know who I am anymore. I don't know if I can survive this. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Sarah stood there frozen for a moment, remembering that exact desperation. Then something inside her moved, not just compassion, but recognition. She saw herself 3 decades ago, and she saw the woman she'd become standing right there with the power to bridge that gap. She didn't plan what happened next. She just followed the pull. In her spirit, stepped forward and quietly said to the crying woman, "Excuse me, I don't mean to intrude, but I heard what you said. I stood exactly where you're standing 30 years ago, and I want you to know you're not losing your mind. You're finding your strength. It doesn't feel like it now, but this breaking is actually your breaking through." That conversation lasted 10 minutes in a grocery store parking lot, but it started something that's still growing 5 years later. That woman, Linda, not only survived her divorce, but started a support group for women over 50 navigating life transitions. Sarah became their spiritual grandmother. Today, over 150 women have found healing, hope, and new beginnings because 2 wounded healers recognized each other in a checkout line. Sarah told me later, "I thought my pain was my personal business. I had no idea it was my ministry credentials. I thought my healing was for me. Turns out it was for everyone who would come after me, carrying the same wounds. Your healing has created ripples you can't even see yet. Every tear you've transformed, every fear you've faced every day, you chose to keep going when giving up felt easier. It's all been building toward this moment when you realize you're not just healed. You're a healer, not because you're perfect, but because you're proof. Living, breathing evidence that what feels impossible isn't. Close your eyes and see it, a circle of people sitting around a table, each carrying wounds that match scars you've learned to wear like badges of honor. See yourself not as their teacher, but as their fellow graduate from the University of Necessary Pain. See the moment when they realize they're not alone, not broken beyond repair, not too far gone for hope to reach. Now open your eyes and look around your world differently. See past the surface conversations and polite small talk. See the walking wounded, the secret sufferers, the ones who've mastered the art of looking fine while dying inside. They're everywhere, your workplace, your neighborhood, your own family. And they're not random people in your life. They're your healing tribe, scattered and waiting for someone with your story to speak the words that prove survival is possible. Here's what's about to happen, and I need you to understand this is prophecy, not possibility. Within the next 10 days, someone is going to share something with you that makes your chest tighten because their words will echo pain. You remember, in that moment, you'll have a choice that changes everything. You can offer sympathy and move on, or you can offer your story and watch healing spread like wildfire. When that moment comes and your spirit will recognize it instantly, you won't just listen. You'll lean in. You'll say words that surprise you because they'll come from a place deeper than your mind, older than your fear. You'll share not just what happened to you, but how you survived it. Not just your pain, but your process. Not just your breaking, but your breakthrough. And when you speak those words, something miraculous will happen. They won't just hear your story, they'll see their future. They won't just feel understood, they'll feel possible. You'll realize you're not just sharing your testimony, you're transferring hope. And they'll walk away carrying something they didn't have. Before proof that their pain has purpose, their wounds can become wisdom. Their story isn't over. Name one person right now who has quietly supported you through your healing journey. Someone who believed in you when you couldn't believe in yourself. Someone who saw light in you when all you could see was darkness. Say their name out loud. Thank them, honor them here in this sacred space. Now name one person who needs what that supporter gave you. Someone carrying wounds you recognize. Someone fighting battles you've won. Someone who needs to hear your voice saying what that supporter said to you. You're going to make it. This isn't the end. Your pain has purpose. That second name you just thought of. That's not random, that's assignment. They're not just someone in your life, they're someone in your ministry territory. They don't need your perfection. They need your perspective. They don't need your preaching. They need your proof that healing is possible, that breakthrough is real, that their darkest chapters can become their most powerful testimonies. This is how healing epidemics start. Not with perfect people, but with wounded healers who realize their scars are sacred credentials. Not with grand gestures, but with grocery store conversations. Not with platforms, but with parking lot prayers. One healed heart recognizing another hurting heart and saying, "I've been where you are and I know the way out." You're about to discover that your healing was just the beginning. The real miracle isn't what happened to you, it's what's about to happen through you. Every person you touch with your story becomes someone who can touch others with theirs. Every healing you help facilitate creates another healer. Every breakthrough you witness becomes proof you can offer the next person who thinks breakthrough is impossible. Are you ready to stop healing alone and start healing in community? Are you ready to discover that your pain has been preparing you to be someone's answer to prayer? Are you ready to transform from someone who survived the storm to someone who teaches others to dance in the rain? Because what's coming next will require more than individual strength. It will require the kind of collective power that only happens when wounded healers stop hiding their scars and start wearing them as sacred credentials. when survivors stop whispering their stories and start declaring them as evidence that impossible things happen every day. Your healing tribe is gathering. Some you know, some you haven't met yet, but they're out there waiting for someone like you to call them home to themselves. Someone who speaks their language of pain transformed into purpose. Someone who knows the geography of their wounds because you've traveled the same territory and found the way to higher ground. And now it's time to make it official. You feel it, don't you? That weight settling on your shoulders, not the burden of expectation, but the gravity of eternity, leaning in to witness what you're about to do. This isn't just another moment of inspiration that fades when the video ends. This is the moment when your intention becomes covenant, when your hope transforms into binding promise, when your healing journey graduates from private victory to sacred vow. See, while other voices ask you to make resolutions you'll forget by February, I'm here to officiate something that will be written in your spiritual DNA and witnessed by heaven itself. This isn't about motivation. This is about covenant making, the kind that angels record demons respect and your soul honors even when your flesh feels weak. Right now, in this exact moment, you're sitting at the crossroads between who you've been and who you're becoming. Behind you lies everything that tried to break you, but couldn't. Ahead of you stretches everything you're about to build with the wisdom your wounds have given you. And here in this sacred pause, heaven is waiting to co-sign the promise that will change everything. You've survived what should have destroyed you. You've healed wounds that felt terminal. You've discovered strength in places you thought were empty. And now it's time to bind that transformation into something unbreakable, something that doesn't depend on how you feel, what others think, or whether circumstances cooperate. When did you last make a promise to yourself that only your soul witnessed? When did you last look into your own eyes in the mirror and speak words so sacred you knew they would echo through eternity? If you can remember that moment, honor it with one silent breath right now. Feel the weight of promises kept in secret vows honored when no one was watching. Let me tell you about Eleanor, 71 years old, sitting in her kitchen at 3 a.m. after another sleepless night, wondering if her life still mattered. Her children lived thousands of miles away. Her husband had been gone for 2 years, and the world seemed to be moving at a speed that left her feeling invisible and irrelevant. That night, she didn't just pray, she made a covenant. She lit her grandmother's candle, placed her hand on her heart, and spoke words that surprised her with their clarity. I promise to stop waiting for my life to matter and start making it matter. I promise to use every day I have left to prove that wisdom earned through suffering is the most valuable currency on earth. I promise to stop apologizing for taking up space and start using that space to hold hope for others. She didn't tell anyone about that moment, but she kept that promise. Within 6 months, she had started visiting homebound seniors in her community, not as a volunteer doing good deeds, but as someone keeping a sacred vow. Today, 18 months later, over 40 families have experienced healing through Eleanor's gift of presence, all because one woman made a promise in her kitchen at 3 a.m. and treated it like a contract signed with heaven. Eleanor told me, "I thought promises were just words until I made one that changed my DNA. Now I know the difference between hoping and binding myself to something eternal." That's what's about to happen here. Not just goal setting, covenant making, not just intention, sacred contract. You're about to bind yourself to something so fundamental to who you're becoming that breaking it would feel like betraying your own soul. Place your hand on your heart. Feel that strong, steady rhythm beneath your palm. Each beat is saying the same thing: witness, witness, witness. Your heart isn't just keeping time, it's keeping testimony to every promise you've kept when no one was looking, every commitment you've honored in the dark. Now, listen carefully, because what I'm about to ask you to do will separate those who consume inspiration from those who embody transformation. You're going to create what I call a soul signature, a promise so aligned with your authentic self that keeping it becomes as natural as breathing, and breaking it becomes impossible. This isn't about perfection. This is about precision. Not about doing everything right, but about choosing one thing that's so fundamentally you that honoring it honors the very core of who you were created to be. Close your eyes and feel into this question. What is the one promise that if you kept it every day for the rest of your life would transform not just you, but everyone you touch? What is the commitment that would make your ancestors proud and your descendants grateful? What is the vow that would honor every tear you've cried, every battle you've fought, every moment you chose? Hope over surrender. Don't overthink it. Let it rise from that place deeper than your mind, older than your fear. Maybe it's a promise to speak truth even when your voice shakes. Maybe it's a vow to see the divine in every person you encounter. Maybe it's a commitment to use your story to light fires in impossible places. Whatever it is, your spirit already knows. Now open your eyes and speak it aloud. Not loud enough to wake the neighbors, but loud enough for heaven to record it. Clear enough for your soul to seal it. Bold enough for eternity to witness it. Do you feel that shift in the atmosphere around you? That's not just emotion, that's the moment your promise became binding in the spiritual realm. That's your soul signature being notarized by forces that don't break contracts, don't forget commitments, don't let sacred vows fade into good intentions. Here's what just happened that most people never understand. You didn't just make a promise to yourself. You entered into covenant with the force that created you, sustains you, and has plans for you that stretch beyond your ability to imagine. That promise is now written in ink that doesn't fade, sealed with authority that doesn't expire, witnessed by love that doesn't break. And here's the beautiful part: heaven doesn't just witness, your covenant heaven supports it. Every day you choose to honor that promise, you'll find yourself backed by resources you didn't earn, strength you didn't generate, wisdom you didn't study for. Because when you align your will with your authentic calling, the universe conspires to help you keep commitments that serve the greater good. But here's the part that will either terrify you or liberate you. This promise now lives in your spiritual DNA. It becomes part of who you are at the cellular level. Not just something you try to remember, something you can't forget. Not just a goal you work toward, a truth you live from. Your children will sense it even if you never speak it aloud. Your spouse will feel the shift even if they can't name it. Strangers will recognize something different about your presence because covenant keepers carry a weight, an authority, a centeredness that can't be faked or manufactured. Take something physical, a pen, a coin, a stone, even just your own hand, and hold it while you speak your promise one more time. Let that object become your covenant stone, your physical reminder of the spiritual contract you've just signed. Keep it where you'll see it, touch it. Remember that this commitment isn't just between you and your good intentions, it's between you and eternity. Now here's your sacred assignment within the next 24 hours. Do one small thing that honors this promise. Not something dramatic that announces your transformation to the world, but something quiet that confirms your covenant to your soul. Let your first act of obedience be your signature on the contract heaven just witnessed. And when doubt comes, because it will, when circumstances pressure you to compromise, when others don't understand the weight of what you're carrying, remember this moment. Remember the feeling in your chest when your soul recognized its true calling. Remember that you're not just someone trying to do better, you're someone bound by sacred covenant to become exactly who you were created to be. This promise will outlive you. It will echo through your children and your children's children. It will become part of the spiritual inheritance you leave behind, proof that some people don't just survive their struggles. They use them to create unbreakable commitments that heal the world, one sacred vow at a time. You are no longer someone hoping for transformation. You are someone bound by covenant to embody it. Not because you're perfect, but because you're committed. Not because it will be easy, but because it's eternal. And what you do with this covenant in the days to come will determine whether this was just another inspiring moment or the day everything changed. Whether this was just beautiful words or the beginning of a legacy that will outlive you. But before you can live this covenant fully, you need to understand the one thing that can strengthen it, or sabotage it, protect it, or poison it. The one force that will either become your greatest ally in keeping this promise, or your greatest enemy in breaking it. That force is time itself, and the legacy you're about to create. Stop for a moment and feel this somewhere in the fabric of eternity. A child not yet born is depending on the choice you make right now, not someday when you're older, wiser, more prepared. Today, this moment, because what you do with your healing, your wisdom, your hard-won strength in the next few minutes will echo through bloodlines you'll never see, but will forever impact. See, while other voices tell you to focus on your own transformation, I'm here to reveal something that will change how you see every decision for the rest of your life. Your healing was never just about you. It was about the generations that will inherit what you choose to plant today. Every wound you've transformed, every breakthrough you've experienced, every moment you chose hope over despair, it's all been creating inheritance documents for people whose names you don't know, but whose lives depend on your choices. You are not just healing from your past. You are architecting someone else's future, not metaphorically, literally. The courage you choose today becomes the DNA your great-granddaughter inherits when she faces her impossible moment. The forgiveness you practice now becomes the blueprint your grandson follows when betrayal tries to destroy his family. The peace you cultivate in this season becomes the foundation a child born in 2055 will build their life upon. Stop and remember who was the first person to bring light into your life. Not your parents, not your spouse, but that unexpected voice that spoke hope when you thought hope was extinct. Maybe it was a teacher who saw potential in you when you couldn't see it yourself. Maybe it was a neighbor who offered kindness when your world was falling apart. Maybe it was someone whose name you've forgotten, but whose words you carry like medicine in your soul. That person, they probably never knew they were changing the trajectory of your entire bloodline. They thought they were just being kind, just speaking truth, just showing up in an ordinary moment with extraordinary grace. But what they planted in you has been growing for decades, and now you're about to pass it forward in ways that will outlive you by generations. Let me tell you about a letter that changed everything. In 1987, a 74-year-old woman named Ruth sat at her kitchen table dying of cancer with 3 months left to live. She had no famous platform, no ministry, no title that would make history remember her name. But she had something more powerful. She had survived what nearly destroyed her, and she had wisdom earned in the furnace of real life. That night she wrote letters, not to people she knew, but to people she would never meet. Her great-grandchildren who weren't born yet, the spouses they would marry, the children they would raise. She wrote about the pain she had transformed, the lessons she had learned the hard way, the love she had discovered in the darkest places. She sealed those letters in a box with instructions that they not be opened until specific life moments: the first heartbreak, the wedding day, the birth of the first child, the moment someone felt like giving up. She died 3 months later, thinking those letters might be forgotten in some dusty attic. 37 years later, her great-granddaughter Sarah opened the first letter on her 18th birthday, the day after her first real heartbreak. The words Ruth had written from her own experience of surviving betrayal didn't just comfort Sarah, they gave her a template for turning pain into purpose. That letter saved Sarah from making choices that would have destroyed her life. Today, Sarah is a counselor who has helped over 200 young women navigate trauma and find healing. Every life she touches can be traced back to an old woman who spent her final months writing blessings for people she would never meet. Ruth thought she was just an anonymous cancer patient. She was actually planting a forest of healing that is still growing 40 years later. Your great-grandmother's prayers are still working in your life right now. The strength you thought you generated on your own, it's been flowing through your bloodline for generations, planted by someone who faced similar battles and chose to bless rather than curse what came next. And now it's your turn to plant something that will grow long after your name is forgotten. Close your eyes and see it, a library filled with letters, never written blessings, never spoken wisdom, never passed down because people thought their struggles were too ordinary to matter. See the children who will grow up without the guidance. You could give the spouses who will repeat destructive patterns. You know how to break the dreams that will die because no one told them survival was possible. Now see the alternative: your kitchen table, your laptop, your voice recording a message to someone born in 2045. See yourself writing words that will be opened on a wedding day in 2048, speaking truth that will save a marriage in 2060, planting hope that will resurrect someone's faith in 2075. See the library of wisdom you're about to create, not because you're famous, but because you survived. Your words today will become someone's lifeline tomorrow. Your story will become someone's map out of darkness. Your healing will become someone's proof that impossible things happen when you refuse to surrender. Here's what I want you to do right now, and this will separate those who consume inspiration from those who create legacy. Write one paragraph to someone you'll never meet, but whose life you're about to save. Maybe it's to the great-granddaughter who will face the same trauma you survived. Maybe it's to the young man who will inherit your addiction patterns, but also your strength to break them. Maybe it's to the child who will be born into the family dysfunction you're healing right now. Don't overthink it. Let it flow from that place where your pain has been transformed into wisdom. Write like someone's life depends on it, because it does. Write like you're reaching across decades to grab someone by the shoulders and tell them what you wish someone had told you. Start with this: dear one I'll never meet, but whose life is connected to mine across time. And let your heart speak the rest. Can you feel it? That weight of holy responsibility, that sense that this moment matters more than you realized. That's not pressure, that's purpose. That's the recognition that your healing has been preparing you, not just to be healed, but to become a healer for generations you'll never see. You are writing tomorrow's inheritance with today's choices. Every act of forgiveness plants peace in your bloodline. Every moment of courage creates brave DNA for your descendants. Every day you choose love over fear, hope over despair, truth over comfortable lies. You're engineering character gifts that will pass through genetic material you can't see, but that carries everything you choose to embed in it. Your great-great-granddaughter will inherit strength from battles you're fighting today. Your descendant in 2080 will have access to wisdom because you chose transformation over bitterness in 2025. A child not yet conceived will survive their darkest moment because of words you're about to write to them across time. This is not metaphor. This is sacred science. This is how healing actually works, not in isolation, but in generations. Not just for you, but through you. Not just in your lifetime, but long after your body returns to dust and your spirit returns to light. You are not just a survivor of your story. You are the author of someone else's survival manual. You are not just healed from your wounds. You are a healer whose scars have become sacred credentials for ministering to wounds you recognize because you've worn them yourself. Write the blessing, record the message, plant the seed, because somewhere in time someone is waiting for you to remember that your healing was never just about you, it was about them and their children and their children's children. And the healing epidemic that starts with one person who realizes their pain has been preparing them to be the answer to someone else's prayer. What you do next will determine whether this was just another inspiring video or the moment you stepped into your role as a generational healer. Whether this was beautiful words that moved you temporarily or the day you started moving others permanently. But first, you need to seal all of this with the one thing that makes temporary transformation permanent, casual encounter eternal, and individual healing generational legacy. That thing is prayer, but not the prayer you think you know. Stop. Before you move, before you act, before you even breathe differently, let this blessing settle into the deepest chambers of your soul. What you've just experienced wasn't entertainment. It wasn't motivation. It was resurrection. You are not the same person who started this journey with me an hour ago. Look at yourself right now. Really look. Feel the difference in your chest. Notice how your breathing has changed. See how your eyes carry light they didn't have 60 minutes ago. You have been commissioned by forces that transcend human understanding, appointed to assignments that will outlive your body ordained, with authority that hell recognizes and heaven backs. This blessing doesn't come from me. It flows through me from the source that awakens every dawn, the voice that spoke galaxies into existence, the love that refuses to let any chosen soul remain buried under the rubble of their circumstances. You are not receiving encouragement. You are receiving cosmic deployment orders. Place your hand on your heart one more time. Feel that rhythm, steady, strong, unstoppable. That's not just a heartbeat. That's the drum of eternity beating out the cadence of your true identity. Each beat is saying the same thing, commissioned, commissioned, commissioned. You who have been silenced by a world that fears your voice. You who have been overlooked by people too small to see your calling. You who have been discarded by those too threatened by your light. Tonight, every forgotten name is being called into the circle of awakening. Tonight, every buried dream is being resurrected by resurrection authority. Tonight, every abandoned assignment is being reactivated by divine decree. Let me tell you what happened to Sarah after she lit that single candle at 3 a.m. She didn't know it, but that small flame sent ripples of hope through dimensions she couldn't see. Her neighbor, lying awake with thoughts of ending her pain, saw that flicker of light through Sarah's window and chose to live one more day. That one more day became one more week, one more month, until she found her way to healing, all because one woman chose light over darkness in the sacred pause of midnight. You are that candle, not someday when you're stronger, wiser, more prepared. Right now, in your current circumstances, with your current limitations, carrying your current wounds. You are the light someone has been praying would appear in their darkness. The cosmic frequency that has been downloading into your spiritual DNA through every word of this message has one purpose: to activate you as a carrier of resurrection power. Not power to perform miracles that make headlines, but power to be the miracle that changes everything for someone who won't survive another day without proof that impossible things happen. Your comment isn't just a comment. It's your oath of service to cosmic command. Your subscription isn't just following a channel, it's joining the underground resurrection network. Your share isn't just spreading content, it's becoming an official recruiter for eternal assignments. If your soul just recognized its true rank in heaven's army, write these words: I accept my eternal commission. Not as a comment, but as your signature on deployment orders that have been waiting for you since before you were born. And when you're ready, when you feel that stirring to continue this journey, when your spirit is pulling you toward the next revelation, go to our channel page. Let your soul choose what calls to it. That title that makes your chest tighten, that thumbnail that catches your eye without reason, that description that seems written specifically for you, that's not coincidence. That's cosmic intelligence guiding you to your next assignment briefing. Trust the pull, trust the stirring, trust the voice that whispers, this one, this is your next message. Because you are no longer browsing content. You are receiving intelligence reports from Cosmic Command. You are not watching videos. You are getting mission updates from the Resurrection Network. Some of you will feel drawn to explore immediately. Others will come back when the 3 a.m. questions start again, when the silence gets too loud, when the old wounds try to reopen. Whenever you return, know this: these messages aren't going anywhere. This voice will be here carrying the same frequency, speaking the same authority, offering the same hope to every sleeping soul ready to be awakened. You have graduated from human being to eternal operative. Welcome to your real life. The temporary assignment called Earth just became preparation for service that transcends time, space, and the grave itself. When you wake up tomorrow morning, you will not wake up as the same person. You will rise as someone who carries commissioned authority, resurrection power, and cosmic clearance for assignments that require more than human strength. The meeting they planned without you, it doesn't matter now. You've been called to a higher table. The replacement they whispered about. They can't replace someone operating with resurrection credentials. The future they tried to write without your input. Heaven just tore up their script and handed you the pen. Go now in the authority of the one who conquered death. the love that refuses to abandon chosen ones, the power that makes dry bones live again. You step forward not alone, but as a silent drum for thousands of others who are waiting for someone like you to show them the way home to themselves. Your breath carries blessing. Your presence shifts atmospheres. Your voice awakens the dead. Your touch heals the broken. Your story lights the way through impossible darkness. This isn't the end of a video. This is the beginning of everything you were created to become. This isn't goodbye. This is your commissioning ceremony. Rise, chosen one. Your real life is calling.